Welcome to the Ladies Talk Show. This is your host, Leah Richeimer. We have a very important topic today about parenting complex kids together and how husband and wife, that whole thing. And even if your kid's like, oh, my kids are all normal, watch this show. You're going to be a better parent because of it. I'd like to thank you so much, Dr. Ilyssa Bass, for being with us today. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So first of all, tell me a little bit about your passion of what you do and why you do it and how we can, in the short amount of time we have, we want to pack in as much practical information for everybody as possible.
Okay, fantastic. We've got about 20, 25 minutes. That's what we're aiming for. Great.
Yeah.
So my passion is supporting families that have complex kids. And when I say complex, it's not a euphemism, right? It's not me trying to not say some other word. There are kids who are they're like million piece puzzles. There are kids we kind of like go, oh, it's ADHD. And I read a book about ADHD and then he made so much sense to me. And there are kids who like, well, ADHD is part of the picture, but also he has some sensory stuff. And also he's really gifted. And also socially, he doesn't always know what's flying. And also.
Mm-hmm.
And, you do as much as you can. And then at some point you kind of hand them the puzzle and you go like, okay, you figure the rest of you out. But these kids kind of require like a PhD in parenting. And
you mean the parents do? The parents feel like they do.
Yeah, the parents need a PhD to figure these kids out, because you try traditional chinuch classes and it feels very helpless. It feels like the behavior isn't changing. It feels like you're not getting anywhere. And when you have a kid who is super stressed out and melting down and has behavior you can't stop, that absolutely gets into your shalom bayis. How could it not? Because you're exhausted and the behavior isn't changing and whatever you're trying isn't working. And so then, usually it's mom who's with the kid more. So then dad has a more objective view and he shares it and she feels underappreciated, but he's like, well, what you're doing is not working. And she's like, well, nothing's working. What you're doing is also not working. And it just always becomes a shalom bayis thing. That's the norm. So if you have complex kids and it's affecting your shalom bayis, there is nothing wrong with you. It just, often these kids struggle with sleep because they're stressed out and their cortisol and adrenaline is just pumping, which makes it hard to fall asleep and stay asleep. And if kids aren't sleeping, then parents aren't sleeping. So it puts this tremendous strain on the family system. And when we say parenting complex kids together, I want to give a shout out to anyone who's a grandparent who's watching, because grandparenting is also part of parenting. And then as a grandparent, you're watching your child struggle with their child, and you care about your grandchild and you care about your child, and everything seems chaotic. And you come in in a way where you try to share your parenting wisdom, but it's not received, or it's not working, or it creates this complexity in the whole family system. So even as we zoom out with shalom bayis, it's affecting everything.
So you describe to a T, like this ain't your first rodeo, you've been here, you're right. Okay. So you made a picture very, very precise. Give us three things that people can do right now, starting now, to figure out that kid with the million piece puzzle. Because before the thing you said, first when you're doing a 8,000 piece puzzle, you first take the edge pieces out, then you do the grass. And I love the analogy, but I want to know the to-do list. Like, what does that look like?
You want the actionable items, Leah Richeimer. That's your style. Tell me
what to do, how to do it.
Right. Create actionable change. Okay.
Yeah.
So one, I'm going to reframe the question a little bit, because there's nothing I would rather do than give you three simple things that would change this whole game.
Right.
And it's more complex than that. So I'm going on one foot.
Dang.
I'm going to give you three things, Leah Richeimer style, but you're going to take that action and you're going to try it in your home and you're going to see what works. And that's the thing about our complex kids, is that they're unpredictable. So I'm going to give you kind of, I'm going to give you an acronym, okay? And it's rug, right? If you ever have an area rug that you put down for your kids to play on, it's it's not like a carpet, it's not wall-to-wall carpeting. It's not like you make the whole room for them and safe and like you could fall on your face and you're fine. But an area rug kind of it defines a place for a kid to play. It's a little softer. If you fall there, that's where the toys go. That's where like it kind of just defines where kids can be. So picture yourself as like a rug under this chaotic situation, right? You are connected to the floor. You are holding it. You are the parent. You are a safe place to assemble a million piece puzzle. So here's the acronym RUG. Okay. The first is regulate. If you are the parent, if you are the grandparent, if you're talking to your spouse, if you're talking to your mother, if you're talking to your child, communication has never gone well, ever, if you can't take a deep belly breath, right? If you cannot go,
In the middle, you're saying. Like all chaos is going on. No, they're not listening, and now they're banging on the floor, whatever they're doing.
then you're just in coping mode. You're not in communication mode. You're in like, physically get dinner on the table, move child who's hitting other child away from so everyone is safe. I'm talking more because it's a shalom bayis show, right? About how we're having the spouse conversation, right? And it's let's go this way. The first two are the same with your kid and with your spouse. They're regulate.
So explain regulate, because people may not know what regulate means.
Regulate means, can I take a deep belly breath? And if I can't take a deep belly breath, like I am a nervous system. If I am in fight, flight, or freeze, I cannot effectively communicate. I'm just trying to keep myself safe.
Mm-hmm.
I will yell at my kid because I'm in fight mode. I'm just trying to stop their behavior so it feels calm in my head again. It's not about what's most effective. It's just about trying to kind of like vomit up the chaos inside of me to try to make it all stop. If I'm talking to my spouse and I'm not regulated and I go into attack mode, I mean, you tell me how well that goes. You're the shalom bayis expert. Not recommended, right?
So regulate means just to have a self mastery, to be able to control yourself, or it means to be able to breathe.
It's to calm down.
To calm down.
To regulate yourself means self-regulation is the clinical term for I can get my adult self back on board. My body can take a deep belly breath. If I'm in fight, flight, or freeze, my body does not feel safe enough. It senses a lion out there. So I can't access the parts of my brain that can do effective communication, that can see another person, that can make a plan, that can have a strategy. I can't put a puzzle together.
I'm totally with you, but I don't understand how steam's flying out your ear. All the stuff is happening out there. How do you, I get the concept of self-regulation. How do people do it? I mean, like how do you go from like knowing, oh, I should self-regulate now to actually self-regulate? How do you make that shift?
Okay. So again, on one foot, because I teach an entire class on this.
Okay.
You practice something outside of the moment and hardwire it so you can use it in your moment.
Oh, you mean you practice when you're not in the heat of the moment? You're not on the football field trying to catch the ball or whatever you do at a football field.
Yeah.
You're beforehand.
Spousing requires a lot of practice, right? Like a lot, and it requires a lot of education. And Baruch Hashem, in the Jewish community, there's a lot of marriage education and there's a lot of child education, like chinuch education, but it really does require skills. So, on one foot, you find a mantra, you find a breathing exercise, you find some kind of grounding exercise, you practice it outside of the moment, and then you try to bring it inside of the moment. That said, there are moments where you can't regulate yourself because there's actually something dangerous happening. And our complex kids can get aggressive And in those situations, you can't regulate first. You just create physical safety. You get in between the kids who are hitting each other and you create safety, and you don't have to be regulated to do that. You just have to get it done.
Act. Right. Okay, fine. Okay.
Act, because
That's a good rule.
there is a reason to be in fight, flight, or freeze. This is
Okay.
the same with your husband. When steam is coming out of your ears, you either, I mean, with your husband, you can usually step out of the room because he's probably not gonna, like, kill his brother if you step out of you have more time usually to go, like, "I'm too angry, I need to step out, I need to calm myself down and think about this. I'm not gonna say anything nice right now. We're not going anywhere good." So it's that same thing when you're in a fight with your spouse or when your kids are overwhelming you. Step number 1 when you're trying to figure out what to do is, like, you've gotta get your adult brain back online. If your body is reacting like there's an imminent threat, you
Right.
just can't think. You just can't think. So that's one, right? And this rug is
That's
regulation.
that's R. Okay.
That's our the U is understand. And that's a whole chachma unto itself. There's understand your child. What are this child's unique sensory needs? What is their body need? Are they sensitive to sound? Are they sensitive to taste? Are they sensitive to touch? Are they undersensitive to any of those things? Do they need more motion, right? Our hyperactive kids, do they need more um, like body boundary squeezes? These are the kids who like to like stand on their head. They love that head pressure. What does this child's body need? Again, we're in you, understand, right? What does their body need right now? Are they hungry? Are they thirsty? Are they tired? Socially and emotionally, what's going on for this child? Is this a
Mm,
child who's like that smushy connection kid? Is this a child who um, needs a little bit of space, really values their own autonomy, doesn't want you to come in too fast or too hard? Is it a child who socially understands what's going on age appropriately with their classmates? Are they missing what's flying socially? Are they feeling lonely? Are they feeling too much social pressure? Just what's going on in their social emotional world?
got it.
Cognitively, are they gifted? Do they have learning issues? Are they a kid who like has a perseverative interest? They have to know everything about trains. Is that what's going on? Understanding, and I'm going to add a spiritual understanding, which is like, what's like the neshama type of this kid? Is this my like, super spiritual tzaddik kid? Is this my like my super yashar kid? Like it's all black and white. Why would anyone do what's wrong? Is this my kid who like struggles attentionally with things like shul and structure and it's all very complicated for them? Like we do have our kids have this need that's above these three. It's kind of a felt sense and a little bit complicated, so I'm not gonna dive into it now, but it's there. So understanding,
Mm,
why is this child stressed out right now? All behavior is communication, right? So they're hitting their sister could mean, "I wanted the sensory input. I was actually understimulated, physically understimulated, and hitting my sister felt good." It could mean, socially, "I missed a cue. My sister just she was reaching for something and I thought she was going to hit me and I missed the cue and so I hit her." It could mean cognitively, like I also I'm bored. I actually have nothing to do and getting into a good geschmack fight with my sister is actually just like, yeah, it's geschmack. It's stimulating for me. I'm into it, right? I'm not sure if I can think of a spiritual reason to hate your sister, but right, because if I understand the way I guide that child, which is the G, is going to come out much more effectively. If this is my child who misses social cues, I'm going to come in with, "Hey, sweetie, wait, what was going on for you?" "She was about to hit me." "You felt like she was about to hit you." "Sweetie, what was going on for you?" "I was reaching for the magnetile." "Ah, she was reaching for the magnetile and you thought she was hurting you. That makes sense. I get it. And then we can kind of do the social skills training of like, like, first of all, it helps your brother if you go, there's a magnetile next to you. Cause when you come in fast, his body just hits for no reason. So he didn't get it. Do you get that? Like, then you can kind of create structure in your home around this. If this is the kid who needs sensory input and he's hitting his sister, you can go, whoa, those aren't safe hands. Those hands are for the punching bag. When we need that kind of physical input, here's kinetic sand, here's clay, here's whatever. This is my kid who he has to push against the world. If he's cognitively bored, you kind of go like, whoa, when you start hitting your sister, that means you need something else that's fun to do because this is not okay in our home. When we're bored, we don't start up with people. But here's the things you can do. So it's a very different intervention. Now for my spouse.
Wait, hold on. Can you freeze on that one for a second? You won't forget what you're going to say?
I'm not going to forget what I'm going to say.
Okay. Okay. For the understanding, the you, right? I was just back there. I was wondering, you're saying understanding your kid. Is it also part of it understanding yourself? Like, in other words, this always triggers me when he does, like that. Is that part of that whole make or
1,000,000%. Yeah.
1,000,000%?
Understanding what goes on for them and what it brings up in you, for sure.
And what it brings up in you, what, like, you had a mother who did this or that, whatever, and so your kid's acting the same way, and you've got all these triggers. So that's a lot of introspection, a lot of work to be able to when you were describing the you of understanding the kid, I'm like, wow, she's like, done an X-ray with his brain and knows exactly, it's like it was really.
I don't, because he's a million-piece puzzle. I just kind of put together like part of the elephant, so I kind of sort of know these things about him, but
Right.
sometimes I can't make sense of his behavior. And
Right.
if it doesn't trigger anything in me, if I don't go to the place of, oh my gosh, my child's behavior means
I'm a bad mother.
I'm a bad mother, I'm a bad person, my goodness is all tied up in this kid's behavior, then I can't come in with curiosity about understanding my child. I've got to understand myself first
Mhm.
to even get there. So I am a psychologist. That is mostly what I help parents do, is that side of the you.
Is the triggers.
Is the
Yeah,
triggers.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
because our interaction with our spouse and our interaction with our kids and our interaction with our parents is the most intimate conversation we have with Hashem, right? Hashem shows us what we most need to work on by the people who are closest to us and who we care most about,
Mm,
because we're most motivated to make that change for them because we love them so darn much.
right.
So so
You were gonna go and you said about your
with
spouse. You
the
were gonna go.
spouse,
Okay,
with
yeah,
the spouse.
yeah.
So I mentioned, when you have a child who is hitting their sister all day long, so dad comes home and mom is burned out,
Beyond.
beyond, because
Yeah,
she also didn't sleep the night before.
right.
Um, and usually, like, the typical is dad comes in with, like, just punish him more, right? Because dads are that kind of, like, Gevura kind of by nature, sort of. They have the more punitive foot forward first, by nature. And mom's reaction is usually kind of like, "You don't understand. I've been to all these chinuch classes. And I tried that, and you tried that, and it hasn't worked. And I don't want to end up in a power struggle with this child the whole entire day. And I feel underappreciated because I've been dealing with this all day, and I've weathered 3 meltdowns and 2 cucumbers in my face, and I
Mhm.
freak out because he couldn't find his other shoe. And then you're going to come in and tell me I'm parenting wrong after all the effort I put in, and all that is the normal, right? Because we all care about this child and want this child's behavior to change. So now you're in the room with your husband and you're getting into it about this kid and his behavior. And mom's feeling misunderstood. Dad's feeling like his perspective on chinuch there's no space for it. And we're at it, right? So we're at that same R and U.
The
The
R
the
and you,
regulate,
a
the
rug. Okay.
regulate, right? That
Regulate.
we're not discussing this child and this child's chinuch if neither one of us can take a deep breath. We just can't. We can't.
Right.
Then we're understanding each other. How do you see chinuch? What do you think might work? How do you see chinuch? What do you think might work? What does this child bring up in you? What does this child bring up in you? to have that conversation both at the same time is kind of hard. I usually it's usually mom who's trying to convince dad of her way, that I'm talking to, meaning dad's trying to do the same thing. I just am not having that conversation with him because I work mostly with women. Um, and I always kind of say, like, have this conversation with your husband where you sit down and you're only curious, like you are doing an interview for a talk show. You're just interviewing him on what's it like for you with this kid? What's hard about him for you? What does he bring up for you? What are your fears for him? What do you love most about him? What do you want to try? If I would do whatever you wanted chinuch-wise, what would that look like? If you can hold the discomfort of the answers he might give that you might not, that you might disagree with, you create a space where it's safe to be confused, because 9 times out of 10 that's where dad goes, where he goes to a place where he goes like, this is what I think will work, but I don't really know. It's not safe to say, but I don't know, we're figuring this out together. That's the place you want to get to in a marriage when you have a really behaviorally challenging child.
So
It's like,
I didn't follow that path.
okay,
Can
so
you explain it?
going,
Yeah,
we're regulating ourselves first.
right.
We're creating a space where we're curious about understanding our spouse's
Okay.
experience of this child, right?
So that's what the objective of this time outside of the, you're not in the heat of the battle. The kids are asleep, the kid's asleep or whatever, and you're having a conversation now. And in that conversation, the objective of that conversation you're saying is to understand each of your points of view. Is that am I
It
following
is
you?
to understand each of your points of view, but I'm going to say like a level deeper than that.
Okay.
It's to kind of say like, w- it I've created through curiosity a space that's safe enough to go like, I don't have all the answers to what to do with this kid. If you have a mahalach and your husband has a mahalach and you're both trying to convince each other of your mahalach, there's a lot of marital conflict there. And honestly, you don't totally know, and he doesn't totally know, and I don't, as the psychologist, totally know, and your child doesn't totally know. Your child is this complex 1,000,000,000 piece puzzle, and when you're putting together a million piece puzzle and you go like, do you know what this piece is? This part of the elephant or part of the grass? Is that gray or green? It's not vulnerable for your husband to be like, I have no idea. I don't, just put that one aside, and we'll just figure out what we can figure out, and because it's not emotionally loaded. But figuring out a complex kid requires dad's perspective and mom's perspective, and sometimes the perspective of an OT, and sometimes the perspective of a psychologist, and sometimes some babysitting help, and some grandparents, and some. But to go, this is so complex, and I don't know. I'm putting together a really big puzzle, and I need help. There has to be the safety to say, I don't know.
Mhm.
And that's really like, that requires so much work.
Mhm.
That requires so much work to feel safe enough in your marriage around parenting to be allowed to say, I don't know, can we figure this out together?
It's beautiful. Wow. Wow. If that didn't, you know, here's the thing about it. This is so important for complex kids, but it's also every area of your marriage. Amigos don't split. So that if you get that muscle stronger, the one she's talking about, where a deep connection and living in that sort of curiosity place, if you get that working in this instance, all of the rest of your marriage is going to look different as well. There's going to be a level of safety and closeness in the other areas. And perhaps, and this is one thing that I'm getting from this whole conversation, you know, our big challenge in life is shalom bayis. It's really the most important midah for that Hashem, it's the most important thing. We get lots of sources. Look, 220 Torah sources. Like find the sources, but our Hashem shalom is the most important thing to him. And shalom bayis, Shmuel Kamenetsky told me that shalom bayis starts shalom in the world, like peace in the world. Like everyone's like, hey, peace, man, brother. Let's, peace in the world starts with shalom bayis, starts with peace in the home. So from what you're saying, there's if people can keep their eye on the ball, that perhaps Hashem gave them this super complex kid as a ultimate challenge in terms of keeping shalom bayis, that if they can be on team and through this is the greatest tikkun, the greatest aliyah, rising up, the best things that they can do for their olam haba. Maybe you can talk a little bit about that, Ilyssa, the how, from a spiritual, larger picture, a spiritual standpoint, neither of us are rabbis, but, from a spiritual standpoint, how you think that, there you go, how you think this challenge is, what might Hashem have had in mind, because it is quite challenging. Maybe tell us a success story about a couple who used their complex kid to have a otherwise impossible to achieve shalom bayis.
I'll tell you a story. I have a long-term group that I run of mothers of complex kids. And we did a writing exercise one night. We do a lot of things, but this was just kind of a night for like self-reflection. And I just gave 4 prompts, and they were kind of to just walk you through rewinding back to before you had the support and the knowledge and that place of chaos, and kind of reflecting on where you are now and where you'd like to be, and kind of who you've become in this process. And one of the mothers had a very powerful experience, and she said, I have felt like I lost myself in mothering this child. He has so many complexities, and there's so many appointments. And it's been such a journey that I really have this voice in my head that says, I lost myself parenting this child. And when I did this writing exercise, I realized that what I lost was I don't go to shiurim, and I don't get to do all this geschmack personal growth work that I love doing in seminary. When I reflect on who I've become, there are things that he has done for me. He humbled me. He made me obsessed with seeing the good in someone, even when they're having a meltdown and throwing shoes in your face. He taught me to be curious instead of controlling. He has made me more deeply human. And I never could have gotten there going to a shiur every Tuesday morning. It just couldn't have done that for me. And so that voice in my head that says I lost myself, I think is just the voice that didn't want to learn these things this way. And it's a good thing I didn't get to choose. And I don't know where her shalom bayis is at, because I don't have to ask. But her husband's super involved, and he's at every appointment. And I imagine if I asked her, she would say, and my husband and I have learned to be in the chaos together. That we have learned to hold on to each other in a really stormy situation that Hashem has given us.
Wow. Okay. I'm sorry we have to end, because
I feel like that's a good place to end. I feel like that's a really powerful place to
okay.
end.
But here's the thing. Remember, everybody, regulate.
So I want to tell you, rug is right. Rug is for the kid, because
Right.
it's regulate, understand, guide. For your spouse, it's regulate, understand, and I'm going to say probably experiment or negotiate. Run. I'm not a shalom bayis person, so that's not as worked out for me.
I was
Run
thinking,
doesn't sound as good. What?
G for grow together.
Grow together.
You're all making an aliyah by this path that you didn't sign up for this, and all of a sudden you're on this train, and it's a rocky train,
I like that. I
Yeah,
like that.
yeah,
I think
maybe.
where I was saying with like experiment or negotiate is you kind of get to this place of like, because we both don't know, what's the next thing we want to try?
Right.
What's the next experiment we can do? What's the next piece of the puzzle
Beautiful.
put together?
Mm.
Or negotiate, which is like a little bit more of like a aggressive tone, but just kind of like, this is what I need, this is what you need. We both have valid needs here. You want him to have more structure. I want him to have more love. So I come in first with the relationship, and you come in first with the gvul, and like I can appreciate that you can do that. Can you appreciate that I can do that? Or can you try it my way for a week? Can you try it your way? There's not this like one way to do it. But if you can get to that place of like, let's do an experiment together.
Beautiful, beautiful. Okay, and I want to end with one final thought for those of you who are dealing with really, really complex kids. For whatever extent that it's complex, when they say, people learn Torah and they become, teachers, or they become this, whatever, and then the ultimate high level is to be learning Torah Lishma. You're learning, just for the sake of learning, and that brings a certain closeness to Hashem that nothing else does. If you're learning Lishma, and here's the gift I want to give to you, that Amirat Hashem will help you get through this, is that, or get through it, or grow from it, or become your best self, or whatever through it, is that when you are parenting a kid, you expect nachas, you this one, and then they sing at the play, or they, finish a masechta, they, whatever, they make a siyum on this and that, whatever, you get nachas from it. From a very, very challenged kid, it's, in a sense, there's part of it that's parenting lishma. And that's you're doing all the work and 10 times the work, and you're not getting the geschmack, nachas that you signed up for, and you should just know that you're giving Hashem a lot of nachas in what you're doing, and Hashem should continue to give all of us continued kayach for raising our children, our grandchildren, and great-grandchildren, great-great-great, raising them with a lot of nachas in this world and the next. Thank you so much for being with us. This was gewaldic, and thank you, everybody. This is Leah Richeimer. We'll see you next time.